That's how we started the call. Rubber hits the road.
But if they can hide everything and it can be not be transparent, you could hide it for a long time.
Well, they have been hiding it for a long time. The problem is
that the average person on the street starts to feel it.
Yeah, you have practical limits. Like, you can only grow debt so much before you can't pay it off, and everyone knows it. And again, like I said, the average currency on the planet, I'm not talking about in like Zimbabwe, I'm talking about the average currency on the planet is at or near, or in some cases, way below previous all-time lows. I mean, the euro, looking at it right now, it's about to break under 1.1. It's pretty close to the lows we haven't seen in 15 years. Look at the British pound after the Brexit. It's at like a 25 or 30-year low. The Japanese yen, the yuan is at its lowest level. It's being walked down, and soon it'll be ran down. And then you have all the commodity currencies, because commodities care of all the money printing. There's been way too much capacity in just about everything. So you're seeing the Australian dollar hit a new low, and the Canadian dollar, and the Mexican peso. And, you name it across the board. There isn't a currency on the planet that isn't getting slaughtered.
Okay, so why can't we just be smart and say, okay, we are not paying these debts back. Let's get ourselves to something fiscally responsible. Let's reset the dollar. Let's shave off these debts. Okay, we might piss off people so much we're going to have wars, but okay, well, let's just deal with it. But we need to have a healthy environment long term. It's bankruptcy at a mass level.
Well, you can't do it now. First of all, like I said, we have the quote reserve currency, and the only reason it's worth more than the others is because of its liquidity. If you went in and said we're not going to pay our debt, the dollar would cease to be the reserve currency immediately. That's why it's so scary when Trump in his campaigning has been saying, he's acting like he's a businessman. Well, I'll go up to all these guys like the Chinese, and I'll do deals with them. He's acting like he can cut the debt down with a business deal. If you do that, the dollar ceases to be the reserve currency overnight, and the dollar crashes. And then
he won't do it because he'll be educated on what's going on, and then he won't do it. He's not. He actually, I think, is probably smarter than that. So he's just talking.
Oh yeah, he'll be educated on. But you're saying, why can't we do it? Because that's what he's proposing. And then you said he won't do it because, of course, he won't do it. But the point is,
my question is, and then are we stuck? At some point, it's going to happen naturally. We either do a planned bankruptcy and a planned dollar reset, or we're going to be forced to do a bankruptcy and a dollar reset in a completely chaotic way.
It's called kicking the can.
But there's a point where the can doesn't kick anymore because there's
it's in your life too. You prevent the worst case scenario as much as you can. Why would any politician want to just destroy the if he came in there and actually did that and said, hey, China, guess what? We're gonna make you discount our debt.
Nobody wants to be the one that plans it. Nobody wants to take on that responsibility.
That's what I'm saying. You're saying, why can't we do it? That's why. Because no one, why won't Janet Yellen or Ben Bernanke do the right thing and stop printing money? Because they don't want it all to crash down on their watch. It's going to crash down anyway. And the more things that they do, the worse it's going to get in the big picture. More importantly, the worse it's going to be for your children and their children, but they don't care. It's just like anyone else. It's trapped rats in any situation in life. You don't want it to end on your watch, and you certainly don't want to be blamed for it.
Well, but it's like being to relate it to you personally. Let's say, you keep kicking your own can down the road because you want to pay your bills. You don't want to get, next thing you know, you have creditors calling all over the place, and you have your hair coming out and standing on end. You're so stressed out, and creditors are calling you all the time. You can't even make any bills. That's essentially what's going to happen to our country.
That's right, but our country is still the most powerful, at least printing press in the world, so they don't have to deal with creditors the way you have to deal with creditors personally. They can kick the can longer than the average Joe
but
can,
when
they
does
will.
The can
and
stop? When does the can hit the wall? Because
it's not just us.
Because this could go on for another 20 years. When does the can hit the wall?
No, not 20 years. Look,
when?
The debt is growing. The debt is growing parabolically. The currencies are crashing. The economies are crashing now. It's not 20 years. So when does the dollar? That's why by pushing you against the wall to answer the question, the dollar needs to be reset, and it's going to crash at some point. When will the can hit the wall and it can no longer be kicked? Well, look, that's the
I know
$86,000, $2,000 question.
Sure.
The thing is, look, things are getting much worse, and around the world, they're really getting much worse. That's why we're having all these social revolutions everywhere.
We're lucky to have the reserve currency.
I mean, what could do it? I can name 50 things. I mean, the collapse of Europe. What if Italy has their referendum this year and opts out, or the French opt out, or the Italian banks don't get the bailout they need, or they do get it and people trash the euro because they see hyperinflation?
England
or what if something happens in Brazil or Turkey?
Turkey's
there's a million
scary.
things.
Turkey, that coup is scary because now he's taking over. He's essentially becoming an Islamic dictator. He got rid of like 20,000.
50,000 now.
Education. Oh my God. Educational leader. All the deans, all these teachers, they got rid of anybody in any kind of position that they think can undermine their authority. To me, that's scary. I mean, to see a NATO ally turn into a complete dictator is scary.
And that's what I mean by the world can handle these things when the world isn't already falling apart. When the currencies of the world, including the Turkish lira, are not collapsing, and we're not having record unemployment and social revolutions and inflation and financial crises, and Deutsche Bank, the largest bank in Europe, on the verge of collapse. When you don't have these things, you can handle a Brexit. You can handle a crisis in Turkey. But the thing is, we're seeing the crises everywhere right now, all for the same reasons. And it's because fiat currency regimes are Ponzi schemes, as you mentioned before. There hasn't been a single fiat currency regime in history that has survived. And there's also never been a time in history where every currency on the planet was in a fiat currency regime. And they're all tied to the dollar, which is scary, which is the scariest part, because we have this maniacal Federal Reserve, which is, like you said, how much are they printing? 16 trillion? 60 trillion? How much more will they have to print?
Well, according to Jim Rickards, they're thinking it's at like 30 trillion. I don't know who has the right information, but they think it's really out there. But Brexit, they actually haven't implemented anything. They voted to exit, but they're not doing anything at this point.
Well, I mean, it just happened a month ago. But the point is, and again, that's another thing. People who are desperately trying to cling to status quo be like, well, they'll announce some changes in the UK Constitution so that they can stay. And no, they're gone. They are so fed up. They're as fed up as people like me who are actually going to vote for someone like Donald Trump, who I hate, just because I don't want what's in it anymore. I want the status quo over. That's the problem. That's why they voted for the Brexit, and that's why they're going to do this everywhere. People want out, and that's probably why Erdogan may well have orchestrated this, because he knows very well people are pissed off there too, and he's trying to solidify his power. Power is being lost around the world.
Scary.
And it's scary what's going on here. I mean, we could have we are likely to have a president who no one has any clue. He's a loose cannon, and who knows what he'll do. But he's the best of the lot. What's going to happen in France? When the National Front takes over, or in Spain when Catalonia secedes?
So what will we have here? Will we just continue? Because we're having essentially a slow burn. It's just slowly burning out.
That's right.
Can this slow burn just happen until we have political unrest because the average person can't do things and then they're forced to do it that way? Or do you think the dollar would just overinflate? I mean,
well, look, what the situation is it's the whole fiat currency regime. It's not even a matter of the dollar. The dollar is going to be the last to go. I've said it all along, because it's the most liquid. So you're going to see every currency in the world fall first, and it's exactly what's happening. If your currency falls, like you're in Europe right now, and some people are buying gold with it, some are buying Bitcoin, some are trying to find any other kind of real wealth they can find. There's not many choices. And others are going, well, if I want to hold cash, I better hold the dollar because it's more liquid and stable than the euro. And so you're going to see currency after currency crash. The strong dollar in and of itself hurts us in many other ways, because that means our exports crash.
Sure.
It means all the debts that were borrowed in dollars can't be repaid.
Our real economy is hurting because of it.
Yeah, our multinational earnings are going to crash, which is quite a problem when you're trading at record high stock market valuations. So it's better. I'd rather be here in America where people are fleeing into the dollar than fleeing out of it. But the point is, that in itself is just exacerbating the problems overseas, and going to.
But okay, so now if all the different
Yeah.
economies, all the different currencies crash, which is what the process is going on now, the dollar will be a lot stronger. Could we be in a position in the United States to be able to say, okay, you guys are all in a weak position. We could do an overnight reset and still maintain the currency position if we do it at the right time?
Well, I mean, that, again, that's a part conspiracy thing, of what, who has power to make these decisions. But look, let's face it.
Well, because something has to happen.
Yes. Look, well, but it doesn't have to be something that we control. I mean, a lot of these the people in Europe don't look like they're in much control right now of their
I'd like
fate,
to
right?
have it not be a complete chaotic mess, because that's scarier than being able to have some intellectual strategy and actually do something smart.
Well, I'd like that to be the case. I'd like a lot of things in life. Of course, you're assuming that people who have shown the unbelievably least amount of intellectual strategy would be able to do things that would be the best intellect. But look, let's face it. Just look at what's going on everywhere around the world and what has gone on here. For instance, we're talking about TARP. Everything that happens is reactionary, okay? We will react when we have to. When they lose control of, say, the stock market. I mean, that's the biggest thing. That's why they prop it up all day long.
It's reactionary because nobody has enough power to do anything about it. And that's essentially what you're saying.
Yes, there's nothing you can't. Remember, we have more debt than anybody, okay? We can't be, we don't have, the only leverage we have is the fact that our dollar is more liquid than the others.
There could be a point.
Leverage,
okay, I just throw this out there. If all the currencies crash, essentially all the big power currencies crash, and ours is still strong, that is the one point in history where we could do something.
Well, no.
Why not?
It's not that simple. Well, because first of all, it's not strong. If all currencies crash, it's not even saying the dollar's strong. If all currencies crash, that means you're probably in World War III.
Well, you're talking about
7 billion people. And
okay,
our
but the alternative is nobody's in control. Everything's going to be chaos. The dollar's going to crash along with everything else. Well, then how do you fix it? How do you get ourselves into any kind of healthy situation?
I'm just saying,
what's our path to health?
A scenario of every currency crashing, which, as you said, and I'm saying is happening now, is not a good thing for the United States. First of all,
I'm not saying it's good.
We owe $20 trillion to these people.
I never said it was good. I'm just saying that could be our window to solve something and get into a healthy scenario.
Here's the answer.
Is there any path to health?
The answer is, because I get a lot throughout all of my talks, people who want to believe that something good can come of it. What's good will come when this system ends and we start with a system that works.
Well, I know, and that's what I'm saying. At the window to change the system and not just completely collapse and we're all in chaos and the dark ages for another 100 years could be at that point in time where it's.
Yeah, could be.
That's what I'm saying.
But it won't necessarily be. We don't know how things will play out. It could be a worst case scenario. It could be like we're living in Turkey or Greece or Brazil, which, by the way, are theoretically first world countries, but they're not acting like them right now. It could be like that, or maybe it won't be like that, or maybe it'll be in Detroit but not in New York. I mean, I don't know.
Well, we do have some positive things with technology sectors and some other things, and we do have a lot of assets. So there are a lot of positives that we can spin out of this if we can just have some smarts. I know there's a lot of people that care that are trying to figure out solutions. Come on.
I hear you completely.
Yes.
I hear you completely, but you have to understand, you're interviewing me because you're asking me as someone who's an expert on money, okay? Financial assets, but particularly money. What do I think? Frankly, I don't really care in the context of what I do and what I'm trying to help people prepare for. I'm not looking in terms of, well, what will the future be a better future and what will be the positives? I don't really care. What I do for a living, I'm
just figuring how do we keep this from just being a complete disaster?
We don't do anything. We don't do anything. We can't control it. We're all little fish in a tiny little sardines in a giant sea. It's been cast in stone by bigger forces than any of us, including the people in power now, can have any control over. And it's the end game of the world's biggest fiat currency Ponzi scheme. And what we can do as a people, if we want to have positive things going forward, is to prepare for it. I've never said it's going to be Armageddon. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. Maybe there'll be some great reset that'll work out. But to me, I think you have to see all these debts that can't be paid off are going to be written off. And either going to be written off by default, by who knows how, maybe Donald Trump, or more likely by hyperinflation, because that's what history says all governments do, and that's what they're all doing right now.
Okay,
they're all
so
hyperinflating their currency.
The preparation is to have real money, real assets, and so real assets can be land or all sorts of other things. But you sell bullion, so gold and silver.
It's not a matter of sell. It's not